I was perched on the edge of my velvet armchair, the late afternoon sun brushing my cheeks through the floor-to-ceiling windows. My silk blouse clung softly to my arms, a gentle reminder of the life I'd built for myself, meticulously, privately, on my own terms. Everything in the apartment whispered control: the polished hardwood floors, the faint scent of vanilla from the candle on the side table, the neat stack of novels on the coffee table. Yet even in this carefully curated calm, my phone's insistent buzzing felt like an intrusion. A message from my brother appeared, his name lighting up the screen. "Hey, Hannah, we need to talk. It's about Lily." I swallowed, the lump in my throat catching me off guard. Lily, my niece, his daughter, the girl I had agreed to take in when her father went to rehab. I had told myself I was helping, offering stability while chaos raged elsewhere. But the memory of the week she first arrived, a terrified 14-year-old clutching her backpack as if it were armor, resurfaced, and with it, the silent tension that had quietly grown between us ever since. I closed my eyes briefly, letting the warmth of the sunlight anchor me. I wasn't the same girl who had hesitated at the threshold of that first day. I was stronger, sharper, and fully aware of how much responsibility could teach someone, not just Lily, but me. I tapped my phone, typing a careful reply, and paused. This conversation would demand honesty, courage, and maybe, for the first time, confrontation. The kind that leaves no room for half-truths. The memory hit me like a sudden chill. I was 22, fresh out of college, still trembling with that mixture of hope and fear every young adult carries when stepping into independence. My brother, Jason, had called me that morning, voice tight, almost pleading. "Hannah, Dad's in rehab. Lily can't stay with me. Can she stay with you for a while?" I remember staring at the ceiling, the fluorescent kitchen light flickering above me as if echoing my hesitation. My apartment was modest, filled with half-packed boxes from when I had moved out after college. I had only just started my job at a small publishing firm, barely making ends meet. Taking in my niece, a stranger in many ways, felt like climbing a mountain I wasn't ready for. But when Jason's words wavered, when I heard Lily's quiet voice in the background asking, "Please, Aunt Hannah," I felt a pang I couldn't ignore. I agreed. And from that moment, everything shifted. The first evening was chaos. Lily clung to her backpack like armor, her eyes darting, her hands shaking. I could feel my own anxiety mirrored in her small frame, and yet, underneath it, a stubborn spark of resilience that reminded me so much of my younger self. I saw my reflection in her fear and realized that sometimes helping someone meant holding steady even when you felt unsure. My grandmother's words came back to me, soft but firm, as she pressed a worn silver locket into my palm. "Hannah, strength isn't about never breaking. It's about choosing to move forward, even when you do." I had tucked that locket into my necklace that night and never let it leave my neck. It became my talisman in moments of doubt, a reminder that courage could coexist with fear. By the end of that first week, I made a decision. I wasn't just letting Lily stay with me. I was committing to creating a space where she and I could thrive, even in the shadow of our family's mistakes. And somewhere deep down, I knew that what started as an act of obligation would eventually become a crucible, shaping the woman I was determined to become. Once Lily settled in, I realized that caring for her wasn't just about providing meals or a roof. It was a test of endurance, patience, and self-discipline. I had bills to pay, deadlines to meet, and a career I was still trying to carve out in publishing. Yet somehow, between making sure Lily did her homework and learning to navigate the quiet tension of our home, I began building my own foundation. My mentor, Clara Whitman, was the seasoned editor I had met during my internship. She saw potential in me I couldn't yet recognize in myself. "Hannah," she had said one rainy afternoon, coffee cup warming her hands, "your voice is unique. Don't let circumstances define your limits. You define them." Those words became my compass. Long nights blurred into mornings, filled with endless manuscript revisions, client calls, and Lily's whispered questions about her dad. I remember one night, the apartment dark except for the glow of my laptop screen, Lily asleep on the couch beside me. My fingers ached, My back protested, and self-doubt crept in like a shadow. Am I enough? Can I do this? And then I touched the silver locket at my neck and remember my grandmother's advice. Strength is choosing to move forward. Small victories began to accumulate. My first edited manuscript went to print with my name prominently in the acknowledgments. I secured a freelance contract that doubled my income. I even managed to start a modest savings account, our secret safety net. Yet with every success, I maintained a quiet humility around family. I posted carefully curated social media updates, never revealing the full extent of my achievements, afraid that pride or scrutiny might invite judgment. Meanwhile, Lily grew, too. I watched her blossom in small ways, practicing her guitar, reading late into the night, learning that her voice mattered even when her father wasn't around. I felt pride in her victories, as if they were my own. I had transformed our home into a sanctuary of growth, a place where both of us could heal and thrive. And all the while, I kept a private record of my accomplishments, a ledger of resilience, independence, and quiet power. No one outside that apartment knew that the young woman they assumed struggled to juggle life and family was slowly building a life of control, influence, and quiet authority. By the time I finally looked up from the glow of my laptop one evening, I realized something startling. I had created a version of myself stronger, smarter, and far more capable than the one who had nervously opened the door for Lily months ago. The girl who had hesitated was gone. In her place stood someone who could handle responsibility, expectation, and even family pressure with grace, patience, and quiet authority. It started with a knock at the door on a crisp Saturday morning. I wasn't expecting anyone, and yet there they were, Jason, his father, and Lily trailing nervously behind. The sight of them walking into my sunlit living room felt almost surreal, as if the universe had paused for a beat to let me savor the moment. I led them in, offering a polite, controlled smile. "Coffee?" I asked, gesturing toward the counter where a fresh pot steamed gently, the scent of hazelnut filling the room. I noticed Jason glance around, eyebrows lifting at the apartment's carefully curated details, the contemporary art prints I had saved up for, the sleek glass shelves lined with awards from my publishing career, and the subtle touches that made this place feel like more than just a temporary home. It was mine. Lily's eyes widened as she stepped inside, taking in the space that had become a second sanctuary for her and me. I saw her pulse quicken, a mixture of pride and disbelief flashing across her young face. They sat quietly, the weight of unspoken expectations thick in the air. I let the silence stretch, allowing them to absorb every detail before I spoke. Every second added to the suspense, and I felt the familiar thrill of control, of finally holding the narrative in my hands. Then I began. "You all know I took Lily in while her dad was in rehab," I said evenly, letting my voice fill the room without a tremor. "What you don't know is that during this time, I've built a life for both of us. A life where we're safe, stable, and thriving." Jason's jaw tightened. His father blinked, clearly struggling to reconcile the woman before him with the niece-sitting, struggling young adult they had imagined. I gestured to the awards and documents neatly framed on the walls. "I've been promoted twice in the last year, secured contracts that put me ahead financially, and even started my own small imprint. I did this quietly because I didn't need validation. I needed results. And Lily? She's thriving, too. You don't get to take credit for that." "I do." Jason's father swallowed hard, guilt etched across his features. He opened his mouth to speak, then shut it again, as if realizing words couldn't undo the years of assumptions. Lily's gaze met mine, and I felt a surge of pride. Here was my niece, growing into her own person, safe because I had chosen to be the anchor we both needed. The silence in the room shifted, no longer tense, but reverent. They weren't just seeing a young woman who had offered temporary care. They were seeing a force of resilience, intelligence, and independence they hadn't prepared to face. "You did all this alone?" Jason's voice was a mixture of awe and shame. I nodded. "Yes. And it's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about knowing that I could, that we could, that this life isn't given to us. it's built. For the first time, they truly saw me, and the weight of years of underestimation and doubt lifted like morning fog. They weren't just surprised, they were humbled. And in that moment, I realized how far I had come. Not just in what I had achieved, but in how I had transformed both my life and Lily's. The room was heavy with unspoken tension, but now the balance had shifted. For years, I had been the one accommodating, adjusting, compromising, but not anymore. I could see the uncertainty in Jason's eyes and the shame in his father's. They had arrived expecting me to be the same hesitant, struggling woman they had left behind. Instead, they found someone in full control of her life and of the space we shared. I took a deep breath, letting the warmth of the morning sun wash over me, grounding my voice in calm authority. "I'm willing to help," I said, letting each word land with intention. "But there are conditions. Things must change if you want to be a part of this life. For Lily and for yourselves." Jason shifted in his seat. "Conditions?" I nodded.
Yes.
"First, accountability. Jason, if you want Lily to stay close, you need to prove that you can be present consistently. No more missed calls, no empty promises. You've seen the consequences of absence. This isn't negotiable." His father swallowed, the lines of regret etched deep on his face. "And you?" he asked cautiously. "You will respect the boundaries I've set here," I said firmly. "Lily's growth isn't up for debate. You can support her, but you do it with integrity. Toxic habits, empty gestures, and excuses are no longer welcome in this home. If you want to be part of her life, you need to show change, not just words." I paused, letting my gaze sweep across both of them. "And for both of you, it's about more than just Lily. You have to take responsibility for your lives. Pursue your goals, confront your failures, and respect that your actions have consequences. This isn't punishment. It's structure. It's the opportunity to be better, for yourselves and for the people who depend on you." Lily's eyes were wide, absorbing the authority and care in my voice. I could see her hope cautiously rising, the sense that finally someone had her back and that she could trust the rules we were setting. Jason's father exhaled slowly, a mix of relief and apprehension. Jason's jaw tightened, but I noticed the flicker of determination in his eyes, proof that my words weren't just heard, but understood. I leaned back slightly, feeling the quiet power of the moment. I wasn't being cruel or vindictive. I was reclaiming the narrative that had long been assumed by others, and in doing so, I was offering them a chance to rise alongside me, but only if they were willing to do the work. Compassion, I realized, was most effective when paired with clarity and firm boundaries. By the time our conversation ended, the tension had shifted. I could feel it, the subtle recalibration of respect. For the first time, we were no longer trapped in old dynamics of expectation and guilt. Power had changed hands, but not in a way that diminished anyone. It was a foundation for growth, accountability, and, finally, genuine connection. Weeks passed, and the change I had set in motion began to settle into something tangible. Jason kept his promises, showing up consistently for Lily, helping with school projects, and even joining us for Sunday dinners without excuses. His father followed suit, small but steady steps toward reliability, replacing the guilt-ridden hesitations that had once defined him. Lily flourished. I watched her confidence grow, the tremor in her voice when she first arrived replaced by a steady strength. She strummed her guitar with focus, laughed more freely, and began opening up about her dreams, not the tentative ones whispered in fear, but bold ambitions she now believed she could reach. In those quiet moments, I felt a swell of pride that was almost painful in its intensity. I had become the anchor I wished someone had been for me at her age. And yet, I also took time to reflect on my own journey. I remembered the locket my grandmother had given me, its silver chain warm against my chest even now. Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about choosing to move forward, even when you do. I smiled softly, feeling the truth of it settle into my bones. I had been broken, shaken, doubted, and underestimated, but I had chosen forward every single day, for myself and for Lily. Sitting in my apartment, Watching sunlight spill across the hardwood floor, I realized the depth of the transformation. I was no longer just the woman who had hesitated at the door to take in a frightened teen. I was someone capable of shaping her own life, someone who could lead, nurture, and enforce boundaries without apology. Someone who could love fiercely and hold power gracefully at the same time. I glanced at Lily, sprawled on the couch with a sketch pad, completely absorbed in her drawings. A gentle smile spread across my face. We had both survived the storm of uncertainty and neglect and emerged stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. The past no longer held sway over us. The family that had once assumed my vulnerability now respected my authority, and for the first time, I felt fully seen, not just by them, but by myself. And as I touched the locket again, I whispered softly, almost to no one at all. Strength isn't given. It's built. And we're stronger than anyone ever believed we could be. A quiet, empowering conclusion, the kind that lingered in the air like a promise, and the perfect closing for the voiceover that had been my story all along.